The railway keeps the country moving. It carries us to work and gets us to school, brings us together and takes us away. The railway's there for us, our families and our friends. And it's massive. 20,000 miles of track, 2,500 stations, 30,000 bridges and tunnels, moving 24,000 trains and millions of passenger journeys a day. And it's not just passengers. 400,000 tons of freight are moved across the UK by rail every 24 hours. Goods from food, phones, cars and containers, heading to all types of stores and supermarkets. Train travel is an efficient, environmentally friendly and safe way to get people and goods where they need to be. And we're always trying to make it safer. But that's not always a simple job. To start with, trains are fast and very, very heavy. They can't swerve or change course unexpectedly, and with so much momentum, a driver won't be able to stop in time if they spot danger ahead. It can take over 2 kilometers to bring a train to a full stop. That's why we do everything we can to keep the railway safe. And that means keeping you away from the tracks. We want everyone home safe every day. Everyone who uses the railway, works on the railway, or lives by the railway deserves to be safe. But we can't do that all on our own. We need you to do your part, and you're about to find out how. Britain's rail network is a wonder of engineering, transporting millions of people every day, quickly, reliably, and safely. Network Rail uses cutting-edge technology and strict safety standards to make sure that rail is one of the safest possible modes of transport. This film's about how you can stay safe in the dangerous places where roads, rail, and footpaths meet. Level crossings. Years ago, when the rail network was first being built, engineers couldn't afford to build bridges and tunnels at every point where the railway crossed a road. So instead, they created level crossings, places that allowed people to cross the railway safely. We now have around 6,000 level crossings across the UK, and they come in all shapes and sizes, from footpaths across the railway to busy road crossings with hundreds of cars and pedestrians going through every hour. While no two crossings are ever the same, they do all have one thing in common. They are all potentially very dangerous places. So it's really important that you follow these key tips to keep you, your family and friends safe when using them. Firstly, and most importantly, be alert. It's really easy to get distracted, especially by phones and music. So take your headphones off, put your phone away, and stop, look, and listen. Never assume that the line is clear or that someone else is looking out for you. And always expect a train. In quieter areas, you may come across crossings with gates that you operate yourself, like this one. And if you see this sign by a gated crossing, it means that you need to check that the line is clear yourself before crossing. These crossings don't have alarms or warning lights to alert you of an approaching train, so take care, stop, look and listen. Always look both ways before and immediately after opening the gates. Close the gates and cross. And if you're in a group, always make sure that there's enough room for you all to get across safely. If you've got a dog, always keep it on its lead. Its safety is your responsibility. Some crossings have warning lights and alarms. If they're sounding, don't cross. A train will be approaching at speed. And just because a train has passed doesn't mean it's safe to cross. Another one could be coming from either direction. Never cross until the lights stop flashing and the alarms stop. And drivers, if you're tempted to jump the lights or race around closing barriers, don't do it. You're putting other people's lives at risk, as well as your own. We're doing everything we can to make sure level crossings are as safe as possible. But while there are still cyclists, drivers and pedestrians taking risks, there's always the chance that accidents will happen. And unfortunately, there are still hundreds of near misses, injuries and even fatalities every year because people are taking risks at level crossings every day, which is what we call deliberate misuse. Deliberately misusing level crossings is extremely dangerous for the people misusing them, for other users of the crossing, and for people on the train. Don't be part of the problem.
My name's Carol Burns. I'm a train driver for West Midlands Trains. I'm based at Bletchley Depot and I've been driving for approximately 20 years. It was my first day back after Christmas. It was a typical grey January morning. As I approached Marston Level Crossing, I saw a car on the crossing in front of me, and I remember I sounded the horn, I put the train into emergency, knowing that I wasn't going to stop, but just hoping that the car was going quick enough to get out of my way. As I got nearer to the crossing, the driver of the car looked up at me because by now my window was level with his driver's side window. And then the next thing I remember was the sound of breaking glass, and I knew that I'd hit the car. The emergency services arrived really, really quickly, and then the police came and spoke to me and told me that the driver hadn't made it. He'd been pronounced dead at the scene. You feel responsible because somebody's lost their life. Even though you're at no fault, you still feel responsible for somebody losing their life because life's precious. And it's just the most awful feeling. It had effects on my family, on my children, it had effects on my mental health. I had to have counselling, I couldn't work for 6 months. It's just the most awful thing in the whole world. You just can't imagine how bad it is. So just don't take any risks. Don't put yourself at risk, don't put your family in the position, or the driver or their families in this position, because nobody needs to suffer, and nobody needs to do that. The railways are a safe place if you follow the rules and don't take the chance.
Despite all the millions of miles travelled and passengers and freight transported, the railway creates only 1.5%, a tiny fraction of all UK transport emissions, and we're always looking to improve. Decades ago, we replaced steam trains with cleaner, more efficient diesel ones. And we're now looking to replace diesel trains as much as possible with cleaner and quieter electric trains. Railway electricity is delivered either by overhead lines, which suit high-speed trains, or by something we call the third rail, an extra rail to the side of the track which is used on some commuter routes. By using electricity, the railway's becoming more environmentally friendly. But there is a downside. Trains are, of course, very heavy. A passenger train can weigh 400 tons, the equivalent to 80 elephants. And to move something that heavy very quickly requires a lot of power. And that means a lot of electricity. Between 750 and 25,000 volts. That's 100 times more powerful than the electricity you get at home. And that much electricity can be very dangerous. Those who do survive coming into contact with railway electricity are left with life-changing injuries, including burns, amputations, and permanent scars, both physical and emotional. Electricity is one of the most dangerous factors when stepping onto the railway, and it's always on, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even when there are no trains. Never underestimate how dangerous railway electricity is. You don't even need to touch anything to be electrocuted. At 25,000 volts, electricity can arc through the air like lightning and strike 3 meters from the overhead lines. It can also strike you through something you're holding, meaning balloons, kites, or fishing rods should never be allowed anywhere near the overhead line. The powered third rail is a danger that hides in plain sight. It appears to be an ordinary rail, but it carries 750 volts of electricity, and if you're unfortunate enough to touch one, the current has the power to hold you to the rail and inflict terrible injuries. Please don't take risks with rail electricity. Stay off the tracks, keep away from the cables, and whatever you do, stay safe. Railway lines are fenced off from the public with good reason. Inside the fence is an environment full of danger. High-power electric cables capable of delivering devastating injury, bridges and tunnels with no escape space for pedestrians, and the constant threat of sudden collision, with massively heavy, fast-moving trains operating day and night. It might appear that deserted railway locations like these are perfect for exploring or for taking a shortcut across the lines. But thinking these empty tracks are safe for you and your friends to cross or mess about on could be a fatal mistake, and here's why. Modern trains are extremely fast and so quiet they give you no time to react. At top speed, they can cover the length of a football pitch in less than 2 seconds. The only way to stay safe is to stay clear. Entering railway property or stepping onto the tracks without permission is trespassing. Trespassing is illegal, foolish, and very, very hazardous. By reducing delays, danger and damage to the railway, we can make sure everyone gets home safe, secure and on time. And that's why we have the British Transport Police.
Hi, I'm Beth. I'm a police officer with the British Transport Police and I've been doing this job for about 3.5 years. The British Transport Police are basically a dedicated police force that focus on providing safe travel for railway passengers and also protecting the railway. Our network of uniformed police officers, plainclothes police officers and over 150,000 CCTV cameras are monitoring you 24/7 when you use the railway network. We are here to look out for you, but if you do commit an offence when you're on the railway, it will be monitored and will be seen. We will charge, we will convict for them if it's deemed appropriate, and getting a criminal record can be detrimental to your future. It can not only stop you from getting the job you want, it could restrict your travel to other countries. Places like America and Australia will not let you into their country if you have a criminal record. And really that's not something you want as a consequence of simple trespass or disruption on the railway. Over the past few months I've dealt with far too many deaths on the railway where a person has been killed when they've been struck by a train and they've been on the railway when they shouldn't be. The incident itself I am okay with dealing with. I can be a police officer at the time and deal with the incident on scene, but the hardest part of the job is going to a home of a relative, a mum, a dad, sister, brother, auntie, uncle, grandma, and telling them that their loved one has died and isn't coming home because they made the mistake and they've gone on the railway, and as a consequence, they're not coming home. My message is, don't do it. Don't go on the railway. It's incredibly dangerous, and even though I've talked about the effects of the criminal prosecutions and the effect it has on yourself, think about other people, think about your family and your friends that want you to survive, want you to live a life. There's no guarantee that you will come off those tracks if you go on them.